Hello everyone and welcome back to our F1 22 My Team career mode, where this time we will be racing at Spain to see if we can get ourselves another race win, the third of the season, the third in a row. But first we have to have a look at doing some sponsors because it is time to renew them. There are a lot of different sponsors we can do, and obviously they give us different weekly income and goal bonus, so we have to find a decent balance. The first one we're going to go for is Equator Oil, where we need to score 10 Constructors' Championship points. You can see we also put one on where we have to achieve a podium finish. And then the third and final sponsor that we're going to put on is going to be XER, which is to score 5 Constructors' Championship points. So if we score at least 10 Constructors' Championship points, then we will get the goal bonus of 2 of them, and then we just need to get on the podium to get the goal bonus of the third, which shouldn't be too difficult. In terms of the weather, it looks like qualifying and the race are going to be completely dry, so none of that issue that we had with the rain in Imola. Also says that we have had some power unit upgrades as well from Mercedes. And you can see on the performance chart, we are still the highest. We've actually made a pretty big performance leap there, but then so have Ferrari. They've made a massive performance leap alongside Haas and Alfa Romeo. So I'm going to assume that the Ferrari power unit has had a pretty big upgrade. So that's why they've gone up so high. And then in qualifying, we just did a short qualifying, and we only qualified 7th. We didn't do particularly well. Spain's not my favourite track, so I don't know, maybe we just didn't find a performance, but we got a 1:17.1, which is a little bit off the pace, as Jenson Button got P3 of a 1:16.7, I think. Is lights out and away we go. We get a little bit of wheel spin off the line, and that allows Ricciardo to already overtake us, and it looks like Perez is trying to come up inside as well. We break a little bit early. Ricciardo has a lock-up. We actually end up making contact with Schwartzman, I think. All sorts of carnage going on here. You got Perez, I think, ahead of us is making mistakes, so we go down the inside of him, which means we're also going down the inside of the Alfa Romeo, and that has moved ourselves back up into 8th place, but we make a little bit of contact with Ricciardo there with our front wing. You can see we're asking Mark if there's any issue, but thankfully we are fine and we have not actually damaged the front wing. But we are going to be doing a soft to hard strategy, and so are quite a few of the other runners, but you can see a few of them are actually starting on the mediums, so it'll be interesting to see how their strategy plays out. I assume they're going to be going straight to the hard as well. We look at potentially diving down the inside of Ricciardo, but back out right at the last minute, because, yeah, I mean, on lap 2, you don't really want to be doing crazy dive bombs like that, especially when the best course of action, I think, is just to try and stay behind him within a second. So then on lap 3, when we get DRS, we might have a little bit better chance, to be honest, of getting past him, as we set a purple sector 1. So you can see we have found a little bit of pace in race trim. Maybe the qualifying trim wasn't quite so good. But on to lap 4, we're still tracking Ricciardo down a little bit. We've got the DRS behind us. You've got Perez, who has got DRS on us, and us hitting the curb there is not going to help us try and stay within that crucial 1 second. And then behind that, there's a massive gap, basically, between Perez and, it looks like, Albon, who has been fighting Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull. So behind Perez, we've got a little bit of space to not have to worry too much about being overtaken. But the main thing we need to be trying to do at the moment is getting past that McLaren. Now, the McLaren is quick, but we have an opportunity here, so we send it down the inside and just run Ricciardo a little bit wide, a little bit out of the road, and we are past. We think about maybe even going down the outside of Carlos Sainz there, as he was quite slow, but we decide against it in the end. And you can see a little bit in the distance is our teammate, Jenson Button. So he's kind of holding up this pack a little bit, holding up Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz, which is good for us, to be honest, because it means that we actually have a chance. Now, on to lap 7. We have a lot of speed on Carlos Sainz. He covers the inside line, so we are forced to have to go down the outside. Looks like it's just about going to work. We almost have a massive collision there, but we managed to avoid it. But that is us up into P6. Now on to lap 8. The very next lap, we are looking to maybe do the same move on Lewis Hamilton. We got the overtake, we got the DRS. We're not that close, but we decide we're just going to go for it. Go for a big old dive bomb. I think we just about managed to avoid contact. Maybe a little touch on the wheels, but it doesn't matter too much. And that is us up into P5 by lap 9. Mark's telling us that we've got a little bit of grip loss in the tyres, so they are starting to wear a little bit. As you can see, yeah, the rear left is on 53%. But the next car along the road is our teammate, Jenson Button, and then a little bit further up is Charles Leclerc. But we decide at the end of lap 10 that it is time to come into the pits and then swap these rather old soft tyres out for some brand new hard tyres, which will hopefully get us to the end of this race without too much issue. Quite a few other guys have come into the pits as well, pretty much most of the other soft runners. So you see the likes of Verstappen and Ricciardo. I think I saw George Russell there maybe came in as well. But we do have a few other guys still out, like Lance Stroll ahead of us on the softs. He's about 2.5 seconds up, so hopefully he gets into the pits before we catch up with him. But I think we are going to be catching up with the medium runners ahead with the likes of Magnussen. It's going to be an issue. So on to lap 13. Yeah, here we go. Schumacher and Magnussen are going side by side with each other, which is causing me some issue. I'm having to back off a little bit. We might just go for the dive bomb down the inside of both of them here, but in the end we have to back out because Schumacher came across very quickly and we would have been pincered and potentially have our front wing torn off by the Haas driver. So in the end we decide it's probably best just to wait it out as we get a little bit of wheel spin there, try to get on the power a bit too early. Perhaps a bit of frustration is setting in, having to stay behind these two drivers. But we are going to have DRS going into this zone. Is it going to be enough though? I mean, we managed to make it work with Ricciardo. He covers the inside line, so we have to take the outside. We give him a lot of room. I think we might have even had a little bit of a lock-up. But we will have the inside line for this corner here, which I think should allow us to get past. And that is job done. We are now past Schumacher. We just need to get past Magnussen. And then there's a massive gap between him and George Russell. So once we're past Kevin Magnussen, we should be fine because there is no more traffic ahead of us. And hopefully these medium runners will be going into the pits soon. But, I mean, all the while they can end up, you know, holding up our rivals even better. As we end up having to go onto the curb there on the outside because I don't know really what Magnussen was doing. We were going to maybe try and go down the inside, but then he was kind of covering it off. So, yeah, all kind of a little bit dodgy driving from K-Mag there, I think. But doesn't matter too much because we managed to get past him without any damage. So that is us up into P7 now on lap 14. Next up the road is actually Lando Norris. So George Russell has managed to get himself past the other McLaren. A few of the other guys are going into the pits as we have set the fastest lap. So that was Magnussen into pits. You've got Leclerc and Hamilton as well. So here is Hamilton. We send it around the outside as he comes out of the pits, and I think we're just able to make sure we stay ahead because we had literally just got past him before we went into the pits ourselves. So I think it's pretty crucial that we actually managed to get past him there, but we got about 3 seconds to make up on Charles Leclerc, and we've got pretty much almost, or well actually just over half the race to go. So if we've got the pace, we should be okay, as both Carlos Sainz and Jenson Button have just been into the pits as well. We are easily ahead of them. So that is us back into P4 on lap 17. So up the road we have Charles Leclerc, who will be our next target, and then Lando Norris, and then George Russell is leading the pack, although there is not much between George Russell and Lando Norris at the moment. So if we're able to catch up to them, you never know, we might be able to sneak a position or two. As we set the fastest lap once again with a 1:20.1. So you can tell that we definitely are pushing quite a bit, but we are running a bit low on fuel. We've only got 0.3 laps spare, and that has been going down throughout the race. So we're going to have to be pretty careful to make sure that we don't run out of fuel by the end of this race. But on to lap 22, we have already caught up with Charles Leclerc, and a back marker is causing all sorts of mayhem here. It is Nicholas Latifi, as we decide to actually go down the inside of Nicholas Latifi, and that is us past Charles Leclerc. That is going to infuriate the Ferrari driver because he got held up so much by Nicholas Latifi just not getting out of the way. He's still on our tail, but I think we're just about going to have enough pace. And you can see we've got 0.16 laps of fuel left. In the space of a few laps, we've already lost a huge amount of fuel. So as well as having to think about getting past Lando Norris and George Russell, we're going to have to be quite wary of our fuel level, as one of the other back markers there, I think that was Schwartzman, had a big old lock-up, and that's allowed ourselves to have a bit of a gap with Leclerc, because I think he actually ended up causing a bit of an issue with Leclerc when he locked up as well. So not a huge amount of luck for the Ferrari driver, but you can see on lap 30 we have managed to get into the DRS zone of Lando Norris, but you can see we're just fast forwarding here to show you that that's about it, really. I mean, obviously I was doing a fair bit of lift and coast as well to just make sure that we got to the end of this race with enough fuel. You can see it is over in the bottom right hand corner, just going down quite a bit. But even so, even with, you know, overtake, DRS, full throttle, it's just not enough to get past them. It's a bit mad. And on to lap 33 here, our teammate actually sets the fastest lap. We think about doing a massive dive bomb down the inside of Lando Norris, but we don't need to, because George Russell has locked up, made a mistake, and that's allowed both of us to come through. In the space of one corner, he's made one small mistake and gone from leading this race to take a race win, the first race win for Mercedes of the season, to absolutely bottling it and allowing both ourselves and Lando Norris to come through. Now, we are trying as hard as possible here to try and get past Lando Norris for the race win, the third race win in a row, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it. This is the last chance we're going to have to overtake, but we didn't get the best. We didn't get the best exit there, as we are actually set in purple sector 1 and 2, so you can see just how hard we're trying, but a little snap of oversteer there. I think, yeah, I mean, it's really, really difficult to overtake in sector 3, and you can see we're just losing it a little bit of a lock up there. And yeah, I think that is going to be the first race win for Lando Norris of the season. We're just going to come around the final corner just to confirm. We've got the DRS, and you can see we're moving the steering wheel in frustration because we weren't able to get past him. But overall, not a bad result, to be honest. Really not a bad result. We managed to go from 7th on the grid to 2nd. Lando Norris went from 2nd to 1st, so he also got the fastest lap, actually, so he did manage to steal an extra point. Our teammate, though, going from 3rd to 7th, that's quite disappointing, you know. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe he ended up in a bit of traffic. Who knows? But overall, the point deficit to Lando Norris could have been worse. We could have ended up finishing like 5th or something while he was 1st. So managing to bring it back into P2, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. And in terms of driver standings, we are still 1st with 75 points, but Lando Norris is now only 8 points behind us with 67 points. And then there's quite a big gap to Max Verstappen with 36. So, yeah, I think it is definitely showing to be potentially a title fight between ourselves and Lando Norris. Jenson Button moves himself up into P10 with his 12 points, which, yeah, it's just really disappointing. He had such a good season last season, but not so much this season, so far at least. And in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren are 1st by 1 point. So, yeah, it's pretty tight in the drivers and the constructors at the moment. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic stuff. And I'll see you next time.